with the Chasing Dirt show. Special guest Kim Laughlin,
Wonderful.
Culture Apex Coaching. How are you today, Kim?
I am well. How are you?
Doing well, cannot
Couldn't be better.
complain. It is. I'm in Nashville, so if you see a hotel room behind me, we're
Wow.
down here at the huge event, but also cleaning and cocktails live. So we are kind of getting a bunch of service professionals together and going to have some fun down in Nashville. I think so.
Perfect. Sounds like a great place to be as well. I've heard a lot about it.
It's hot down here. I'll tell you that. But let's talk about you. To introduce yourself to
All
the
right.
audience. Thank you again for doing this. But introduce yourself, your company, and we're going to take a dive in a few things today.
Yeah, yeah. So, real quick, 30 seconds. Kim Laughlin, owner of Cultural Apex Coaching. I'm a former director of HR for over 10 years. And for the last 12 and a half years, been doing leadership training and development to improve cultures for organizations that want teams to grow and thrive. Learned the hard way through doing some HR, but that's what I'm on the road to do for the masses.
Yeah, and we're looking to pull you in some of our mentorship and coaching as a subject matter expert. And Jerry's kind of popping in and out. I think Jerry's trying to get down to Nashville, so he may join us or may not. But tell us kind of
Okay.
what you're seeing out there. And again, the our core audience is commercial contract cleaners. Jerry and I talk a lot about the history of a lot of people just hire people to hire people just to get a warm
Yeah.
body because the turnover in our industry is like around 300 to 400%. So a lot of turnover. But as we coach companies, both big and small, we really talk about culture and really finding those like-minded people to get into it. If you have the wrong culture, in my opinion, and you maybe elaborate on this, but if you have the wrong culture, it's not good for the organization or overall, but it's also going to enhance or really bring that what am I looking for? That turnover percentage is going to just keep it going up and up. Is there anything
That's right.
you can share on that front?
So one of the issues, and it's very common for most organizations. So it's we go into business or we become part of a business that wants to do what we love to do. Go out there, work with the clients, and do all the fun stuff. And
Yep.
especially if you're a small business owner, one of the things that we tend to forget about until we have to do it is hire, because we know we have to, because if we're going to scale to kind of grow our businesses, we have to hire people to do the work with us.
Yep.
And there's a lot of preemptive work that needs to be done on that. And what I mean by that is just some experience on how to write a job description and how to intentionally hire for the role. Because sometimes we're so busy, we get so in the need of another pair of hands and legs that we tend to wear those rose color glasses. Oops, I'm not sure what that noise came from, but
That was
and so it's one of those things where we hire to get somebody in there to help. And the thing is, a lot of people can do the work. That's not the problem. You can always show someone how to tactically do the work. It's who are you hiring to do the work? Because if you don't hire correctly, and I know I'm going to be preaching to the choir to a lot of these folks, you're going to get
sure.
a lot of people that are not strategically using their PTO. They call out, it's nice out on a Friday, they're not coming in. There's not a lot of work ethic that kind of is attached to the role. And so when you're hiring, you can catch those red flags if you know what you're looking for. And you ask certain questions and you look for certain things and you kind of just do a little bit more conversation within the interview process, and you can see those. And I teach that to folks.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of work to do, but it's just a little bit of practice. And it has to be done really, really well on the front end so that you have someone that will last, because as we know, turnover is very expensive from the hiring. Then you have to let them go and kind of bring on someone else.
Does that start from the job description though? Because I've heard a lot of things. Do you start with that from the job description, or is it more the interview phase that you're going to capture a lot of that?
All right. So the job description is something that it's critical. You need something to show somebody what they're going to be doing, what the role and the responsibilities are. And you want to create it in a way so that there's priorities first down to what you need to what you like and what you want. So you'll see things like, just for argument's sake, master's degree is it would be nice.
Yeah.
So what happens is, if you don't show people what you're looking for, you're going to get a lot of candidates that probably aren't really qualified to do what you need them to do. Not so much from the tactical level, but from that cultural standpoint. And
Yeah.
so the job description, I have to say, is critical to just be creative in the way you do it, so that you get the people and you're really attracting the people, narrowing down the attraction of the people that you want to talk to. And you have to carve out time for those interviews. You have to, and you have to ask for references. And it doesn't matter if they work for one person and this person's 18 years old. It's there. This happens for everyone. So yes, job description to answer your questions is critical, and then the hiring process is absolutely key.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Job descriptions. One thing. I was going to ask you one more question on that, but though we
Sure.
also coach is where is the company going? Because I think it's most like a you have your bench, right? Just because you put an ad out there doesn't mean you hire somebody, but sometimes you want to see what talent is out there just because maybe here's the roles we have today, here's the roles we want to have. We don't need them
Yes.
right now, but do we just put the feelers out there to see what kind of talent's out there just to kind of see what
Yeah.
comes in? Is that do you recommend that? Do you not recommend that to build a bench?
There's a very unique way of looking for talent. So if you asked me 15 years ago, there would be people lining outside the door. But
Sure,
now you
sure.
have to really approach candidacy search a very different way. You can use recruiters and that's fine as long as you have a good one that knows the industry and all that. But what you want to do is you want to be able to look for talent different ways. Yes, you can put in a post for LinkedIn, whatever, but is that where the people are that you're looking? You have to
Yeah.
know where they hang out. You have to have conversation, networking. I mean, there's and I know I'm kind of speaking kind of broadly, but there's passive troll for talent techniques that you can do because
Say,
it's
say that term again. Passive
trolling for
troll.
talent.
Yeah,
Trolling
I
for
like.
talent. So it's, you meet someone and you just find their character is nice. You know where they've worked before. You know you've seen some things you really like. It's worth that conversation to say, hey, listen, and you might even adjust the role for that person because if you have someone that's really A plus student, you're going to want them to come and be part of your growth for the company. So to answer your question, it is absolutely incredibly important for people to know where the company is going. And there's just, again, there's so many different techniques for interviewing. When you ask, you really want to be very intentional with your hiring and just be honest with them. Tell them who you are, tell them how you are, tell them what the company's doing, where it came from, where you want it to go. If they're inquisitive, they're going to ask questions. If they just sit there and just say yep, 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 when am I going to hear something, they're just looking for a job. And
Yep.
it's kind of, I always say have patience when we're the most desperate because that's when we make the most difficult decisions. And those are the ones that we have to fix further on down the line. And it winds up costing money more than
Right.
making you money. So it's
How
it's a,
much?
it's a, it's an important piece.
How much would you say is how much does it actually cost? I mean, again, we're in a
Oh,
different kind of category. You've got lower end labor, meaning salary wise, compensation wise. You've got mid
yep.
range, you've got higher range. But what do you say the average cost is to actually bring someone on board, and 6 months, 12 months later, they're out the door.
Okay, so it's a kind of a wide range depending if they're entry level to maybe a little bit more advanced, and you want them part of your leadership team. So I'm going to give a wide range, but it can cost in anything from the lower end to it's $1 is too much, but anywhere from 15 to $100,000. So it depends on, are you paying them 75? Are you paying them 80 to be in a leadership team? Are you paying someone $20 an hour? So even the most entry level roles, they're the most costly at times because they're not doing the work they were hired for and you're paying them for something that they're not producing, which is just incredibly, it really does hit the general ledger as far as cost.
No, huge, huge, and reputation and all that good stuff. Jerry's listening
Yes.
from the outside. He couldn't get in today, but he's one of here's a question that he has for you: is hiring to company culture at the management level critical at every level? So is hiring to company culture at the management level critical at every level?
So I don't like answering a question with a question, but that depends on the goals of the organization. So, say my husband and I have a cleaning company. We just
Hmm.
started out and we knocked it out of the park in the first year or two, and we want someone to help with the office operations. That is a leadership role. So
Yep.
you're going to think of it as when you hire someone, are they going to be able to grow within the company to some kind of a leadership role? Maybe it's a team lead. Maybe it's someone that can train. You got to make sure that they're be able to train someone else that comes on. So I'm going to say yes to that, but it depends on the level. So at every level, being either a team lead to a office manager to a COO, you're always looking for what is is this someone that I can see in my company 5 years from now and on? It might
Yeah.
not be a yes, but it might be a heck yeah, I think this person's a good fit. But you don't want to go there enough. When that happens, no kind of relationship is going to be effective.
No, that's good. That's a very good point. And I think that's something that we see a lot of in some of the coaching mentors that it's a warm body,
Yeah.
warm body to fill that position. But I think the other thing we see too, and to what you just alluded to, is there's no career path. It's like I took a job. Okay, I'm happy for the first month maybe that I'm working,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
maybe I have great ambitions. Maybe I want to go to that. What do I need to do to get to that next level and that next level and that next level? And again, not to make it a game, but I think a lot of good people I've seen in their careers in this business, they've left the company because that wasn't clearly defined. It was almost like they had to
Right.
threaten to leave before they'd see the next rung in the ladder. Maybe you've seen
Yes.
that. I've seen that hundreds of times. It seems like, but and I'd hate
Hundreds
to
is
see that.
on the low end. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yes.
but
Yes.
what do you do? What do you recommend as far as that? Okay, we've got the right job description. We're going through the vetting process. There's a whole deep dive into the vetting process and qualifying. We make the offer. You get that onboarding step. But what do you what what,
Yes.
what do you recommend as far as just should every company have a career path? Because it's going to be different across every company. But what's your thoughts?
Well, so my thoughts are usually, and when I did I've done thousands of interviews, and I would say, listen, your resume shows me a lot of potential. We're gonna words are one thing, actions are another. Really want to talk about that work ethic. We need people that and unfortunately we do have to talk about this. We need people that come here on time, that strategically use their PTO.
Yeah.
Life happens and you can, call out last minute and all that stuff. And the reason why I bring it up is because it's been a huge problem with all my clients, um, to be discussed and taken care of for a while. And so what I do with them is I say, you set the expectations, leave nothing to be, leave nothing to be guessed on. You want everything, even if you're over informing. And so you want to make sure that everybody knows exactly what's expected of them. And so when you're onboarding, you want a very intentional process that they come in, they learn everything, but there's also that behavioral, you kind of keep that peripheral vision open for that behavior, because there are a lot of red flags that can happen right away, and I always say act on them right away. Don't let them go because it's a difficult conversation. And I
Yeah.
do teach people how to have those difficult conversations, but more importantly how to prevent the difficult conversations by setting those expectations, making sure that they're nurturing that relationship from leader to the higher. And
Hmm.
the first year is when they're ripe for making that change because it's new. They don't know anything. They're really learning. You have to give them room for mistakes. You have to make sure that they're learning everything that you want them to learn and service the clients the way you want them to be serviced. And it takes about 6 to 12 months to make sure that it's solid. And yes, it does happen earlier, but during that first 12 months is when you're going to see if there's going to be a cement of talent in the company, or if it might be going the other way, because 80% of your time can go really be spent on 20% of the problem within the organization. And I have somebody that is a client of mine. They have one receptionist, and we started right from the get-go. This is what you want to do. You want to have those one-on-ones. You want to make sure that they understand what's going on. You want to give them opportunity for questions and asking, and maybe they have ideas that could be beneficial to the organization, and that you're not just dictating to them what they need to do, but in really integrating them into helping the company grow.
Yeah. That's good. Oh, that's really good information.
It's a
We
process.
actually no, we were actually I was at a Spartan Chemical, one of our strategic partners that we work with. They had a BSC seminar last week, and one of these featured panelists, a very large company upstate New York, great guy, just knowledgeable, has been in the business for 30, 40 plus years, but just knowledgeable. But he made a good point too, and um, most companies spend a lot of their budget dollars on acquiring, training new people, right? They are making a shift that they're going to actually put more emphasis on the retention of those employees. And again,
Yes.
I haven't heard many companies in this business say that. You hear marketing dollars on ads, headhunters, all of these things, but that retention aspect. Any hacks or any hacks that you've recommended to some of your clients as far as at least putting a foundation together around a retention program?
Yes. Yeah. So
Hit me.
number one, you'd be so surprised by me saying this, is make sure you say good morning. Make sure you say, "How are you?" Get
Yeah.
to know your folks. You don't need to know their intimate details of their lives, but do they own a dog? Just say, "Hey, how's Rover?" I know that those sound really silly, but I just went through this again with my client. I said, "Just do you say good morning?" Well, they sit in an office down there. I really don't see her. Make it a point. Open the door, say good morning, but also have those one-on-one, whether it's monthly, have that one-on-one meeting face to face. So in the industry that is the cleaning industry, they're out doing things in different locations. You have to make sure. Look, virtual is wonderful and it has come a long way and it does have its benefits, but nothing is more important than a voice or a face to face. So make sure you're nurturing those relationships, because the number one problem that I hear from teams is I don't hear from them unless I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah. It's
And
a good point.
we're all people, we have egos, we need to be loved, and you don't have to love bomb your employees, but you do have to pay attention to them and nurture those relationships. And I have a whole thing that I go through with people depending on the culture of their company and what their team wants. Some people are just like, leave me alone, I'm good. Or some people like to be recognized for their birthday. You got to know your people and you got to know what they like.
No, that's a good point. I was reading an article. I think I did you're going to help us with some lessons, so I appreciate that too. But one of the
Yeah,
lessons that lead with, again, everyone's different. I'm not great at this, not good at all, actually. I'm a more of a to doer, like a to do list. Here's my to do list. So when my team members would come in, we would just go right into what is the to do list for today. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, are we on the same page? Let's go. And they were talking
yeah,
about, to your earlier point, start that day with, let's talk about relationship. Let's take 5 minutes to reinforce that relationship. Then we go into the to do list, because you learn a little bit about who they are, what matters to them, what their dreams are, and other things, and then you go into the do's. The to do's will always be there, but hopefully that employee
that's
or
right.
that team member, I prefer to say team member, is going to stay with you. So I think that's a wealth of knowledge that everyone just goes right into it. What do you do wrong? What do you do right? What are you going to do today? And there's no personal
Sure.
interaction, and that's not
Yeah,
fun at
you
all.
got to make time for it. Some people say they don't have time, but you got to make time because it will cost you. You're going to get those surprise resign, those letters of resignation from someone that's a really good employee. And you say, oh my gosh, I didn't even know there was anything wrong. So I always tell people have those one-on-ones. If nothing else, it should be quarterly. I always say it should be monthly.
Yeah. And if someone
Yeah,
let me ask you this. This is one for personally for me. If someone leaves you and you weren't expecting it and it hurts, that means it was a
yeah,
pretty good employee. You most likely didn't do something right as a manager, most likely. But if they leave and you're like, oh well, does that typically mean you made a bad hire? Or is that typically maybe you made the right hire? You just didn't nurture them? Is there? I know it's kind of a tricky question there, but what's your thought if someone left you that worked for you and you were like, versus man, that's gonna hurt. What's your
yeah.
thought on the man? Should we have thought better on the hiring process?
So I always say the onus is on the
Mhm.
leaders. And so it could be maybe they were not the best employee. Maybe you let things go, you procrastinate on things, then they self selected and they left. Maybe they were
Yeah,
good at what they did and they were just toxic with the rest of the team. There's so many elements here, and I tend to not answer something directly because it's so different for everyone. But it might be a toxic
yeah,
talent person. They're not good with the team, but they were good for on their own. But they were just making everyone else miserable. Yeah, they were good, but it's probably okay that
mhm,
they left. Now we have some more production from the rest of the team. Or did you ask them, hey, listen, I know you already made a decision. I'm so sorry. We obviously could have done something better. Could you please do me a favor? Let me know what could we have done better so that this wouldn't have happened. And oftentimes if you address that, it's kind of like an exit interview, but it isn't. It's just like no holds barred, totally confidential. Can you tell me what could we have done better? Most people will say, well, I wish you had asked me 6 months ago,
yeah,
but at least better late than never. So you don't make the mistake again, because you know what, mistakes happen even at leadership levels. It just is what it is. So
yeah.
it's one of like three or four different reasons. And then the ones that you don't want to leave that do leave, they hurt the most.
I love it. No, there's so much insight here. No, I feel like I'm going to a therapist right now. You're calm, you're relaxed, you're cool. You've been through thousands of this, Kim. So for the listeners, like if I reach out to you, and we're going to have your all your notes in the show notes, your email, all that good stuff, your website. But Culture Apex Coaching, like why do companies come to you? What do they get from you? I'm sure it's all customable, but take a quick dive of 5 minutes into kind of your company and what you're doing and kind of what you're looking for.
Yeah. So the reason why people come to me is because one of my taglines is soft skills for hard people problems. We know, especially in the day and age of digital, our social skills are starting to get more narrowed. And so we tend not to know how to have that difficult conversation, whether it's like, how do I sit down and tell someone they have to do something better without it coming across disciplinary, or just put ourselves in a litigious situation. It's about learning how to create those relationships with teams so that they actually want to come to work on Mondays. So I always ask, and this is the question I say, is if you asked your team on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being I feel sick to my stomach, 10 being I'm doing backflips, how would they feel coming to work on a Sunday night that they know they have to get up early the next day? And most people, the teams would say, I would give it a 5 or a 6. And I always say, well, what would get to a 9 or a 10? And that's your sweet spot. So I say, ask those questions to your teams and tell them to answer honestly or anonymously, however it is that they're comfortable. But find out what it is that makes them not want to be excited to go to work on Monday morning. And that's what you need to fix. Not for everybody, because you do have difficult people and you're never going to please everyone, but find out what that sweet spot is. And that's what I do for organizations. I help them to hire, to retire, and make sure
I,
that they are retaining talent with the right culture so that they grow and thrive.
I love that. I love that. I'm trying to gauge in my head what my last 3 weekends Sunday afternoon would be. So that's awesome
Yeah.
though. So
Yeah.
no, this has been we did about 20 25 minutes. We've hit our mark on this. This has been insightful. I'm looking forward to you being part of our mentorship and coaching subject
Me
matter
too. Me
expert.
too.
So we'll talk more about that.
Yeah.
Um, anything final thoughts? Anything else you want the community to know before we kind of wrap this up? But this has been there's just nuggets of gold in there. We could go hours on, and I'm sure
I
you
know
know
I
that.
could talk forever. Listen, just get to know your team. Say good morning if you don't, and reach out and just say, hey, listen, let's just chat. Take them out to lunch. Just do some bonding if you don't. It's worth it. It's worth the expense of lunch. It truly is.
I
Do
truly
it.
love it. Well, Kim
Yeah.
Laughlin, Cultural Apex Coaching. We'll have your information listed below the show notes. Chasing Dirt Show, another episode. We're here in Nashville, so we'll have some updates from that as well. But Kim, thank you so much for your
Awesome.
insight, and looking forward to working with you. So thank you again.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you.
Did great. That was awesome.